How to force your brain to do hard things, the Lotus Method. Prologue, the mud below. Maya sat at her desk at 2 a.m., staring at the blank screen. The cursor blinked mockingly. She had 3 major projects due, a presentation tomorrow, and a stack of unread emails that made her stomach churn. Yet here she was, paralyzed, scrolling through social media for the 100th time. "I'll start in 5 minutes," she whispered to herself, the same lie she'd told herself 5 hours ago. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mentor, Professor Chen. "Remember the lotus, Maya. It doesn't bloom despite the mud. It blooms because of it. See you at dawn." Maya stared at the cryptic message. Dawn? It was already the middle of the night, but Professor Chen never sent messages without purpose. She grabbed her jacket. An hour later, Maya found herself at the university's botanical garden. Professor Chen stood by the lotus pond, steam rising from a thermos of tea. "You came," he said, smiling. "Good, you're ready to learn the Lotus Method." "The what?" "The ancient technique for training your brain to embrace difficulty instead of avoiding it, to seek out hard things instead of running from them." He gestured to the pond where lotus flowers floated serenely on the surface. "Tell me, what do you know about the lotus?" Maya shrugged. "It's a beautiful flower." "Yes, but do you know where it grows?" "In water." "In mud, deep, thick, suffocating mud. The lotus seed falls to the bottom of the pond, into the darkest, dirtiest place. And there, in that darkness, surrounded by decay and difficulty, it begins to grow. It pushes through the mud, through the water, reaching for the light. And when it finally breaks the surface, it blooms into something extraordinary." Professor Chen poured 2 cups of tea. The lotus is sacred in many cultures, not despite its origins, but because of them. It represents the ultimate truth. Beauty comes from struggle. Strength comes from resistance. Growth comes from difficulty. "But my brain doesn't work that way," Maya protested. "When things get hard, I freeze, I procrastinate, I avoid. I can't force myself to do the difficult things." "Because you're using the wrong method. You're trying to force willpower like a battering ram against a wall. The Lotus Method is different. It teaches you to rewire your brain's relationship with difficulty, to make hard things feel necessary, even attractive." "That sounds impossible." "Does it? Then why do people run marathons, climb mountains, learn difficult skills? The human brain is capable of seeking difficulty when it's trained properly." He handed her the cup. "Drink. Then I'll teach you the 5 petals of the Lotus Method. By sunrise, you'll understand how to make your brain crave hard work instead of avoiding it." Maya wrapped her hands around the warm cup and listened. "The first petal," Professor Chen began, "is understanding that your brain's resistance to hard things is not a flaw, it's a feature, an ancient survival mechanism." He led Maya to a bench beside the pond. "Your ancestors survived because their brains were excellent at conserving energy. Running from danger burns calories, thinking deeply burns calories. So the brain developed a simple rule: avoid unnecessary difficulty. Choose the path of least resistance." "So I'm hardwired to be lazy." "No, you're hardwired to be efficient, but the world has changed faster than evolution. Your ancient brain still thinks conserving energy is survival. It doesn't understand that in the modern world, avoiding difficulty is what kills you, slowly, through mediocrity, unfulfilled potential, and regret." Professor Chen pulled out a notebook. "The Lotus Method starts by reframing difficulty. Right now, your brain sees hard tasks as threats. We need to teach it to see them as opportunities." He wrote, "Discomfort equals growth." Every time you encounter something difficult, your brain releases stress hormones. You feel anxiety, resistance, the urge to escape. Most people interpret these sensations as danger signals, but they're actually growth signals. Your brain is telling you, this is where you expand, this is where you evolve. "But it feels terrible," Maya said. "Yes, and that's the point. The lotus seed doesn't feel comfortable in the mud, but without the mud's pressure, its shell never cracks open. Without that darkness, the seed never activates its growth response." Professor Chen leaned forward. "Here's your first practice. For the next week, whenever you feel resistance to a task, that heavy, avoidant feeling, I want you to say out loud, "This discomfort is my growth signal." Then immediately take one small action toward the task, not the whole task, just one tiny step. That's it. That's the beginning. You're not trying to eliminate the discomfort. You're changing your relationship with it. You're teaching your brain that discomfort is not danger, it's direction. It's your compass pointing toward growth. Maya thought about her blank screen, her paralysis. What if the resistance is too strong? Then you use the 2-minute rule. Tell yourself, "I'll work for just 2 minutes." Your brain can handle 2 minutes of anything, but here's the secret. Once you start, the resistance often dissolves. Starting is the hardest part. The mud is thickest at the bottom. Professor Chen stood and walked to the pond's edge. The lotus doesn't try to avoid the mud. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It starts growing exactly where it is, in the darkness, with only the tiniest movement toward the light. That's all you need, tiny movements, repeated daily. As the sky began to lighten, Professor Chen led Maya to the gym attached to the botanical center. The second petal is about building your difficulty muscle. Your brain, like your body, adapts to stress, but you must apply stress progressively. He gestured to the weights. If I asked you to lift 200 pounds right now, you couldn't. But if you lifted 50 pounds regularly, then 60, then 70, gradually increasing, eventually you'd lift 200. Your muscles would adapt. The brain works the same way. You can't suddenly force yourself to work 12 hours straight if you currently work in 15-minute bursts. But you can work for 20 minutes today, 25 tomorrow, 30 the next day. Progressive overload. Professor Chen grabbed 2 small dumbbells. "Try this, hold these straight out." Maya extended her arms. Within 30 seconds, they began to shake. Within a minute, they burned. At 90 seconds, she dropped them, gasping. "Miserable, right?" Professor Chen smiled. "But what just happened in your muscles?" "They hurt." They adapted. Tiny tears formed. And tonight, as you sleep, your body will repair those tears and make the muscles slightly stronger. Tomorrow, you could hold those weights a few seconds longer. This is how all growth works, controlled damage followed by adaptation. He sat down. Your brain's focus and willpower work identically. When you force yourself to concentrate on something difficult, it feels painful because you're literally creating micro-tears in your neural pathways, but those pathways heal stronger. The next day, focus is slightly easier. The difficulty threshold increases. "So I need to work harder every day." No, you need to work slightly more than you're comfortable with. That's the sweet spot, just beyond your current capacity. Too easy, no adaptation. Too hard, you break and give up. Professor Chen opened his notebook again and drew a curve. This is called the Goldilocks zone of difficulty. If a task is too easy, you're bored. Too hard, you're anxious. But right at the edge of your ability, challenge meeting skill, that's where flow happens. That's where growth happens. How do I find that edge? You feel for it when you're working on something and you notice. You're engaged but struggling. Time passes differently. You're uncomfortable but not panicked. You have to try, but it's not impossible. That's the edge. That's where the lotus stem is pushing through resistance. Professor Chen stood. Your practice for petal 2, every day identify one task at the edge of your ability, not your hardest task, not your easiest, the one that makes you think, this is difficult but doable. Then commit to that task for 25 minutes, just 25. When it's over, rest, then repeat. You're building your difficulty muscle. The sun crested the horizon, painting the pond gold and pink. Professor Chen led Maya back to the lotus flowers, which were beginning to open their petals to the morning light. "The third petal," he said, "is about momentum. Watch." He picked up a small stone and rolled it on the ground. It moved a few inches and stopped. Then he rolled it down a gentle slope. It traveled further. Finally, he placed it at the top of a hill and gave it a push. It rolled faster and faster, traveling a great distance. Same stone, same effort, different results. This is momentum. The lotus stem doesn't grow steadily, it accelerates. The first inch through the mud takes weeks, but once it breaks through to the water, growth speeds up. And when it nears the surface, it practically explodes upward. Your brain has the same momentum effect. Starting is agonizingly hard. The first 5 minutes of difficult work feel impossible, but if you push through, something shifts. You enter a state of flow, the work becomes easier, time distorts, you forget to resist. Professor Chen pulled out his phone and showed Maya a graph. Research shows that it takes an average of 18 minutes for your brain to fully engage with a complex task. 18 minutes. Most people quit at minute 10, right before the momentum kicks in. They live in the mud, never knowing that the surface is just above them. So I just need to work for 18 minutes. You need to survive the first 18 minutes. That's the critical window. Your brain will throw everything at you, distractions, discomfort, excuses. It's testing you. Do you really want to do this? If you push through, the brain says, okay, I guess we're doing this, and it starts helping instead of hindering. He wrote in his notebook, the momentum protocol. Minutes 15, maximum resistance. Expect misery, breathe through it. Minutes 6:12, resistance decreases. Stay with the task, don't check your phone. Minutes 13:18, breakthrough approaching, push here. Minute 18 plus, flow state possible, ride the momentum as long as it lasts. But here's the crucial part, Professor Chen continued. Once you build momentum, protect it fiercely. Every interruption, every phone check, every distraction resets the clock. You have to start the 18-minute climb again. That's why you felt paralyzed last night. You kept interrupting yourself, resetting the counter, never building momentum. You were trying to grow through the mud while constantly pulling yourself back down. Maya felt something click. So if I can just survive 18 minutes without distraction. You break the surface, and once you break the surface, your brain wants to keep going. It's like running, the first mile is hell, but by mile 3, you've hit your stride. The hard part is getting to mile 3. Your practice for petal 3, set a timer for 18 minutes. During those 18 minutes, you work on one task, no matter how slow or painful. No phone, no email, no bathroom break, no water, nothing. If you fail, start over. Do this until you can survive the full 18 minutes, then watch what happens. As they walked along the pond, Professor Chen stopped at a particularly large lotus flower. The fourth petal is the most powerful, purpose. The lotus doesn't grow because it wants to be comfortable. It grows because it's programmed to reach the light. Purpose pulls it upward through all the resistance. He turned to Maya. Why are you doing your projects? And don't say because they're due. That's not purpose, that's obligation. Maya thought hard. I guess I want to graduate, get a good job. Still not purpose. Those are goals. Purpose is deeper. Purpose answers, why does this matter? Who does this serve? What does this become part of? Professor Chen sat on the edge of the pond. Let me tell you about my student, David, brilliant kid, but chronically unable to finish his dissertation. For 3 years, he'd work in bursts, then quit. We tried everything, deadlines, accountability, rewards, nothing worked. Then his sister got sick, rare disease. The research David was doing, theoretical at the time, suddenly became relevant to understanding her condition. He finished his dissertation in 4 months, not because it got easier, because he found purpose. He wasn't writing for a degree anymore, he was writing to save his sister. That's extreme, Maya said. The intensity is extreme, but the principle isn't. Your brain will endure incredible difficulty when it knows why. Purpose transforms pain from meaningless suffering to meaningful sacrifice. Professor Chen opened his notebook. Here's what you need to do. For each of your hard tasks, answer these 3 questions. 1. Who benefits if I complete this? Not just you, who else? Future you, your family, your clients, society. 2. What becomes possible if I finish this? What doors open? What opportunities arise? What skills do you gain? 3. What am I proving to myself? That I can do hard things, that I'm reliable, that I'm capable of growth. These answers create purpose, and purpose creates pull. Instead of pushing yourself through difficulty with willpower, purpose pulls you through. The lotus doesn't push through the mud, the light pulls it upward. Maya felt tears welling up. I've been thinking of my work as just tasks, obligations, burdens. Yes, and that's why your brain resists. It's smart. It knows meaningless suffering is pointless, but meaningful struggle, your brain was built for that. Humans endure incredible hardship when they have a reason. Your practice for Petal 4, before starting any difficult task, spend 2 minutes connecting to purpose. Write down your answers to the 3 questions, put them where you can see them. When resistance rises, read them. Let purpose pull you forward. The sun was fully risen now. The pond was alive with light. Professor Chen poured the last of the tea. The 5th and final petal is understanding that you're never done. The lotus blooms, but then what? It drops seeds. Those seeds fall into the mud, and the cycle begins again. Growth is not a destination, it's a practice. He showed Maya his phone again, this time a simple graph. This is the compound effect. If you improve by just 1% every day, in 1 year you're 37 times better. Not 365 times, 37 times, because of compounding. Small gains multiplied over time create extraordinary results. The Lotus Method works the same way. You won't transform overnight, but if you practice the 4 previous petals daily. Embracing discomfort as growth. Building your difficulty muscle progressively. Pushing through to momentum. Connecting to purpose. After a month, hard things feel 30% easier. After 3 months, 60% easier. After 6 months, what once paralyzed you becomes routine, and what's routine now, you can barely remember struggling with. Professor Chen stood, stretching in the morning light. The method works because it's not about motivation. Motivation fades. It's about rewiring. You're literally changing how your brain responds to difficulty, creating new neural pathways, building new habits. How long until I see results? You already saw results. You got out of bed at 2 a.m., you came here, you listened. These are hard things you forced your brain to do. That's the first bloom. He smiled, but consistent results. Give it 30 days of daily practice. The first week will be brutal. Your brain will rebel hard. Week 2, slightly easier. Week 3, you'll notice the shifts. By week 4, you'll wonder how you ever worked any other way. Your final practice, commit to 30 days, every single day. Morning, identify your hardest task. Connect it to purpose, 2 minutes. Start with the 2-minute rule. Push to 18 minutes minimum. Celebrate the discomfort, its growth. Miss a day, start the 30-day count over. No exceptions. This builds the most important muscle of all, consistency. Epilogue, the garden within. 6 weeks later, Maya stood in Professor Chen's office. Her projects were completed. Her presentation had gone brilliantly. Her email inbox was under control. The method worked, she said, amazed. Professor Chen smiled. No, you worked. The method just gave you the structure. Tell me what was the hardest part. Week 1, God, I wanted to quit so many times. My brain fought me constantly, but I kept remembering the lotus in the mud, and I'd just keep going. And now it's weird. I actually look for the hard stuff first. The difficult projects don't scare me anymore. They feel like opportunities, like you said, growth signals. That's because you've rewired your brain's threat response. Difficulty no longer means danger, it means progress. Professor Chen handed her a small pot with a lotus seed. Plant this, watch it grow, and remember, you're the lotus and the gardener. You contain both the seed that must struggle and the wisdom that nurtures growth. Maya took the pot carefully. What's the next level? What comes after the Lotus Method? Professor Chen laughed. The next level is helping others through their mud, teaching what you've learned. That's when the lotus drops its seeds, spreading the practice to others who are stuck, paralyzed, unable to do the hard things. As Maya left, she passed a student sitting in the hallway, laptop open, staring at a blank screen. The student looked up, exhausted. I can't do this, the student whispered. It's too hard. Maya smiled and sat down beside her. Let me tell you about the Lotus. The Lotus Method, quick reference guide. Petal 1, embrace discomfort. Discomfort equals growth signal. When you feel resistance, say, this is my growth signal. Take one small action immediately. Use the 2-minute rule to start. Petal 2, build progressive resistance. Find the Goldilocks zone, challenging but doable. Work at the edge of your ability for 25 minutes daily. Rest between sessions. Increase difficulty 10% per week. Petal 3, break through to momentum. Survive the first 18 minutes without interruption. Minutes 1-5, maximum resistance, breathe through it. Minutes 6-12, resistance decreasing, stay focused. Minutes 13-18, breakthrough zone, push here. Minute 18 plus, flow state, ride the momentum. Petal 4, connect to purpose. Before each hard task, answer. Who benefits if I complete this? What becomes possible if I finish? What am I proving to myself? Petal 5, trust the compound effect. Improve 1% daily equals 37x better in 1 year. Practice all 4 petals every day for 30 days. Miss 1 day equals restart the 30-day count. Document your progress weekly. The daily practice. Morning, identify your hardest task. Prepare, connect it to purpose, 2 minutes. Start, use 2-minute rule. Push, work to 18-minute minimum. Celebrate, honor the discomfort as growth. Remember, the lotus doesn't bloom despite the mud. It blooms because of it.